The royale incident. Addiction is a chronic condition characterized by a compulsive urge to engage in a specific behavior like drinking, substance abuse, or in this case, Clash Royale. A young man had grown so attached to the mobile game that it became the center of his life. He was a level 9 and was already at 3,600 trophies, which, honestly, is pretty impressive considering that this took place back in 2016. In those times, having just 3,000 trophies would literally place you in the highest arena. To put it into perspective for today's time, it'd be like getting to 15,000 trophies when you're just a level 12. In other words, he was a sweat. Each victory gave him a rush of validation, and each loss felt like a personal failure. His days revolved around the climb, pushing trophies, upgrading cards, and chasing more wins. Over time, his joy turned into obsession. The game that once entertained him slowly began to consume him. It was no longer just Clash Royale, the app was now his life. He took everything personal. Unfortunately for him, on one fateful night, the man would become overwhelmed by the two cards he absolutely hated the most in the game, Elite Barbs and Hog Riders. Match after match, player after player, his opponents kept using these cards with their levels completely maxed out. He began losing every round, with each loss angering him more than the last. Before the young man even realized it, he had dropped down hundreds of trophies in a single day, and at that point, something inside him broke. Rage and despair collided. The man threw his phone, got up from his seat, and began, unfortunately, I can't really show you the rest of this incident, because it turns out that it actually crosses some of YouTube's guidelines. So, maybe I'll make a Patreon or something? I don't know, but anyways, let's move on to the next incident. The Gamer Rage incident. In June 2024, a gaming dispute took an unthinkable turn from the virtual world into real life. After receiving constant trash talk and beratement from another player on a dying video game, a 20-year-old man from New Jersey finally decided that enough was enough. His favorite video game was shutting down its servers, his life was stressing him out, and this player was still trash-talking him. The man sat down and deeply pondered how he'd go about addressing his situation, and it was at that moment that he came up with an ingenious idea. He'd go and find out where the player lived, tell his mother that he was going to visit a distant friend, and then fly 1,000 miles to the player's town. Upon arrival, he'd purchase a hammer at a local hardware store, and then found the man's house. At 2 a.m., the 20-year-old would enter through the man's unlocked door. Then he ambushed him and struck him repeatedly as he walked out of his bedroom. The man would break into a panic and completely freak out whilst trying to register the totally unbelievable situation before his eyes. Some dude he was trash-talking on an MMO was actually inside his house, at 2 o'clock, attacking him. During their struggles, the man began to scream out for help, and to his complete luck, his stepfather happened to be awake and nearby. The two of them together were able to stop and subdue the 20-year-old until deputies arrived. Although he was injured pretty badly, the man survived and received staples that had helped close several head wounds. As for the other man, Kang was arrested on multiple felony charges, and when questioned about why he did what he did, he chillingly replied by saying that the other gamer was a bad person online. The VR incident. In December 2017, a 44-year-old man in Moscow was at home with his headset strapped on, fully immersed in a VR session. But inside his apartment, the line between the simulated world and the real one blurred. As he moved around the room, he lost his footing and stumbled hard, slamming into a glass table. The impact was devastating. Glass was everywhere, on and inside of him. As the man stood back up, he didn't even have a moment to panic or call 911, he instantly fell back down and became unresponsive. Unfortunately, investigators later reported that he passed away almost instantly. There was no chance to save him. This stood as one of the first recognized incidents where a VR caused the passing of an individual. It serves as a stark reminder that while virtual reality transports us to other worlds, our bodies never leave this one. One misstep in your living room is more dangerous than any simulated battlefield rendered on a screen. So remember to always be aware of your surroundings when you put your VR on. The window incident. As it grew dark outside, it rained and thundered on. This night was supposed to be a quiet, relaxing session of gaming for this 33-year-old man in the UK. He sat in his living room playing his PS5, unaware of the complete chaos that yet awaited him. He opened up his window for some fresh air and resumed his gaming. However, the weather of the night would have no plans of calming down anytime soon. Slowly, it began storming harder and harder outside of his house. Then, in the midst of his game, a sudden bolt of lightning struck his home, bounced off of a puddle of water outside, and then bolted right through his open window and slammed straight into his body. The impact from the lightning bolt was so immense that it launched him from his chair and shocked the living hell out of him, scarring his body with branch-like burns. But, despite how lethal lightning strikes are, the man somehow rose back up from the ground. His head was throbbing and his body was on fire, but he was completely confused, not knowing what hit him. He went to his partner and asked for a wet towel because he had a headache, but upon seeing his horrific condition, they immediately freaked out and rushed him to a hospital to be treated. Doctors and staff took him in and did the best they could do for his burns and internal shock injuries. And against all odds, he somehow survived. Even though he didn't pass away, I couldn't imagine how absolutely horrifying it must be for you to be playing video games in the safety of your living room one second and then getting struck by literal lightning the next second. Ironically enough, the man was playing Stray, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a game where you're a cat trying to find its way back to its family through... you guessed it, a thunderstorm. The Roblox incident. In the fall of 2024, a boy whose only escape was Roblox found their world warped into something unrecognizable. What had once been a game of building, laughing, and running soon became the doorway to a disturbing nightmare. As the youngster continued his gaming, he'd stumble across another friendly gamer in the chat. But on the other side of the screen was Tara Alexis Sykes, a 36-year-old woman from Pensacola, Florida. And unfortunately, she wasn't just another player, she was something far more nefarious. The woman reached into the child's loneliness and began speaking to him as if she were a close friend and someone who deeply understood him. She took her time and earned his trust, and then she revealed her true intentions. She began instructing him to harm his family members. She told him to burn his younger sibling with scalding water and to violently throw him at the tile floor. If his parents found out, she commanded him to sneak into their room at night and to do away with them. She would go on to tell him to burn their house down with aerosol and matches. But when the youngster attempted the first of these vile instructions, deputies immediately arrived to the house. They found that some of the parents' sheets were covered in spray and questioned why he was hurting his younger sibling. Paralyzed in fear, the truth finally spilled out. The kid admitted that there was a woman online who was telling him that he had to do what he was doing. It was revealed that this vile witch used a children's game to puppeteer a child into attempted murder. Sykes was arrested and charged with multiple felonies. She was held without bond and now faces decades in prison. Thank God. There are countless stories like these on platforms like Roblox. If you're young, do not talk to strangers. And if you have younger siblings, monitor them and always check up on them personally to ensure that they're safe and happy. The Hammer. It was supposed to be just another night, until a game turned into a motive for murder. In Russia, a young man was told by his parents to stop staying up all day and playing computer games overnight. His mother took away his keyboard, hoping to enforce some discipline, but unfortunately, his obsession was darker than anyone realized. That night, while his father slept, the youngster crept into his bedroom with a sledgehammer. Yep, he literally showed up with a 20-pound sledgehammer. He carefully covered his father's head with a plastic bag to ensure no mess would be made. Then he lifted up the heavy tool and swung it down at his head. He struck him woefully with 6 brutal swings. And sadly, his father would never wake up. Even though it was his mother who took away his keyboard, he decided to attack his father instead because he was afraid that he'd wake up and stop him. After the vicious ambush, he demanded his keyboard back from his mother. He then went to his room, locked the door, and went straight to his computer setup, where he would engross himself in an endless binge of gaming for hours until police were called. Thankfully, he was arrested and formally charged for what he did to his father. Relatives described him as reclusive, spoiled, and completely lacking discipline. With his father gone, he had finally believed that he was the head of the family, but bludgeoning your father with a hammer so that you can play games doesn't make you into a man. Unfortunately, it sort of makes you the opposite. Video games exist as some of the best entertainment out there in the world. They're fun, immersive, and detailed. But safety is more important than fun and immersion. Don't speak to random strangers on the internet. Don't let your gaming become compulsive and uncontrollable. And definitely don't let games make you so mad to the point you start physically attacking people. Game right and game safe. With that being said, I can absolutely destroy any one of you in a Clash Royale match. That's your problem, not mine. Now have a happy day.